It's okay to be a hater in sports. Like, hating in sports is a part of the game. Like, I like when our fans are so engaged and so passionate that they just don't like the other team. But being racist, sexist, and violent with your words, come on now, what are we doing?
The Atlanta Dream, a WNBA team, has faced controversy over the years, with one of its former co-owners being particularly criticized as one of the least effective owners in sports. For many, this was a worrying representation of what the WNBA stood for. Fans and commentators alike expressed concerns that such ownership was far from the values of the league. As a fan of women's basketball since childhood, and someone who considers herself a basketball historian, I've witnessed the league evolve and grow in remarkable ways. Many fans on social media, including myself, felt that the ownership's handling of certain issues didn't reflect the WNBA's core values. One notable incident occurred in 2020 when the franchise removed an owner due to her outspoken Republican views, especially at a time when social activism was at its peak. This was during a period of intense political discourse, and many fans believed that these views were out of touch with the league's progressive stance. That ain't a representation of us, many said, pointing out that ownership should reflect the community and values of the league itself. Some fans were quick to clarify that their frustrations with the team weren't driven by hatred, but by a desire for better leadership and representation. The Dream's ownership has been under scrutiny again recently, as some have voiced concerns about the team's management and the kind of environment fostered at games. The team often boasts about strong attendance, yet they play in a venue with a capacity of only 3,500. Fans seem to turn out more when star players like Caitlin Clark are involved, which has sparked a lot of conversation. A host of a popular sports show recently expressed disbelief that a sports team could be owned by someone who seemed to lack any real business acumen, especially when such a figure was making controversial statements about a player who has helped grow the league's audience. In particular, the owner of the Dream made inflammatory remarks about Clark's fanbase, suggesting they were racist and sexist. This kind of rhetoric is damaging, and while it's one thing to be passionate about a rival team, it's another to cross a line. Imagine, for instance, if a die-hard fan of the Atlanta Falcons hated the New Orleans Saints to the point where they created inappropriate, AI-generated images of Saints players and sent them to their families. That's unacceptable behavior, and according to reports, that's what some Caitlin Clark stans have done to Angel Reese, a fellow WNBA star. The parallels between other fan rivalries in sports are clear. In the same way that Tennessee Volunteers fans might dislike UConn Huskies, or Boston Celtics fans could harbor animosity toward the Los Angeles Lakers, sports rivalries are part of the game. But as much as these rivalries are normal, it's essential to recognize when the line is crossed, as in the case of sending threats or hateful messages. Surprisingly, Clark herself has become embroiled in these controversies, despite her success in drawing huge viewership numbers across multiple platforms. She recently liked a post by pop star Taylor Swift, which endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris. This seemingly harmless interaction caused an uproar among some of her fan base. Comments flooded in from those who had admired her for her on-court prowess, but felt betrayed by her political views. Some fans tweeted things like, "I was just starting to pay attention to the WNBA because someone was finally worth watching. But now you've caved," while others said they couldn't support her anymore after seeing her endorse Swift's post. This reaction mirrored some of the comments made by Angel Reese, who, on her podcast, had accused Clark and her fan base of being sexist and racist. But is it fair to characterize an entire group of people based on the behavior of a few? Every fan base has its extremists. After all, the word fan comes from fanatic. But it's dangerous to label all Clark supporters as problematic because of a minority. In fact, Clark has exceeded expectations on and off the court, becoming an ambassador for multiple brands and drawing more eyes to the WNBA. Yet, as much as there's been support for Caitlin Clark, there's also an undercurrent of disturbing behavior from certain segments of her fan base, which deserves to be addressed. It's fine to hate a rival team or player. That's part of the excitement of sports. But taking that hate to the level of harassment or discriminatory language is unacceptable. Instead of labeling entire fan bases as sexist or racist, we need to focus on the real issue. Some people are simply taking their passion too far. For Angel Reese, the situation is complex. While her words about Clark's fan base may have been extreme, she has also faced significant backlash herself, particularly since rising to fame alongside Clark. The larger concern, though, lies with the Dream's ownership. The current owner's comments about wanting new fans who look and act a certain way have raised eyebrows. Such language suggests a disregard for white fans, especially those who support Caitlin Clark. This has caused many to question if the owner truly understands the importance of inclusivity in the WNBA. Ironically, Clark recently liked a post supporting Vice President Kamala Harris, which caused a rift in her own fan base, with some accusing her of selling out by endorsing a political figure they didn't agree with. Angel Reese's response to all this has only complicated things further. Instead of calling out bad behavior within her fan base, she seemed to show support for divisive comments. This kind of rhetoric is damaging, not just for individual players but for the league as a whole. As the WNBA grows, it's important for players, owners, and fans to unite in their love for the game rather than tearing each other down over political or social issues. But these concerns go beyond individual teams or players. The WNBA as a league has never turned a profit. There's uncertainty about how much revenue the league generates, and a new television deal, while promising, has yet to materialize fully. If owners continue to alienate potential fans with divisive language, the league could miss out on the growth it so desperately needs. One solution that's been proposed is to impose a fine on the Dream's owner for her inflammatory remarks. A suggested amount is $250,000, which could serve as a message that such behavior won't be tolerated. There's concern that networks may start to pull back if they see that the league is losing viewership due to these kinds of controversies. Clark's supporters, in particular, have been key to the league's growing popularity. Her ability to draw large crowds and viewership is undeniable, but when ownership and players like Reese continue to attack these fans, it risks pushing people away from the sport. Many believe that if this trend continues, the WNBA could find itself struggling even more to attract and retain viewers. At the core of this issue is the problem of generalization. Every fan base has bad actors, but to paint all of Clark's supporters with the same brush is unfair. While it's easy to get caught up in the drama, both the WNBA and the Atlanta Dream need to focus on the bigger picture, growing the league and fostering a welcoming, inclusive environment for all fans. Unfortunately, Angel Reese hasn't done much to address the issue from her side. Instead of denouncing the negative behavior coming from some of her supporters, she's doubled down. On social media, she's commented in support of divisive posts, further fueling the animosity between her fan base and Clark's. This situation could have a significant impact on the future of the WNBA. As the league tries to attract new viewers, controversies like this could deter potential fans, particularly if they feel unwelcome or unfairly labeled. It's vital for everyone involved to step back and consider the long-term consequences of their words and actions. At the end of the day, sports hate is normal and even welcome in small doses. It's what makes rivalries exciting and keeps fans invested. But when that passion turns into something ugly, with racist or sexist overtones, it's time to take a step back and reassess. The WNBA has come so far in terms of visibility and popularity, but there's still a long way to go. Let's hope that ownership and players alike can recognize the importance of uniting fans, rather than dividing them.